These are the top 10 Sasuke fights in Naruto. So at number 10, I have Sasuke versus Madara. Sasuke versus Madara was a, you know, one-sided battle. Sasuke didn't understand once Madara came back to life, his life was, I don't know, he wasn't going to live. Um, but Sasuke did try to like stand on that fucking business because Naruto was already dead at that point. You know, and he, was using his, EMS eyes and trying to do shit like that. But he had Renegon. Renegon, beats that. So he was already at a loss. He took that L. Um, I was thinking about all the fights I could think of, and that one came up. And this is Madara, so like, I had to give him props for that. But he still couldn't like he couldn't do no damage to him. But it's Madara Uchiha. He's legendary. He had to come back with um, Hagoromo's Chakapu or Indira's Chakapu, and save save the world with Naruto. But at number two, or not two, but at number 9, we have Sasuke versus Orochimaru. Sasuke versus Orochimaru, right? And that was when the second time when he tried to take over Sasuke's body. You know, Sasuke was knowing of the time frame that it was. I've been with Orochimaru for about 2.5 years now, training under him. So he's gonna come for my body at some point. He's trying to fuck around and take my body because he knows what I'm capable of. And he was like, you know, okay, well, you know, I'll try to take Sasuke's body then, because that's what I planned. Because he was really sick. Sasuke knew this and he goes into the room. But he wasn't going to play it like, he didn't know what was already going to happen. He's like, man, you trying to fuck with my body, you little bitch. Fucking pedo. Trying to steal my fucking body. And then, he did perform the ritual, but, Sasuke overturned it with his Sharingan. He was like, what? Overpowered Orochimaru and basically absorbed Orochimaru. And then Orochimaru was then later sealed away by Itachi. His brother saved him. But people learn that. You know. 8 though is Sasuke versus Orochimaru in the Forest of Death. In the Forest of Death, Sasuke fought against Orochimaru. And when he fought against Orochimaru, he was really, on the back foot because Orochimaru was playing games. See, Orochimaru was acting like he was a participant in this tournament. The Chunin exams. But Sasuke pulled out a lot of moves on him. Fireball Jutsu. Phoenix Fire Jutsu tied Orochimaru to a tree and hit him with Fireball Jutsu. Damn, Sasuke even smashed Orochimaru's head into the ground. It was not enough. Riku curse mark was placed on Sasuke, and then on Sasuke had a way about him. He wanted more power because he liked what, the curse mark blessed him with. At number 7, we got Sasuke versus Gaara. See, Sasuke versus Gaara was one of those good fights too. It all leaded up to that point, in the tuning exams, because everybody was like, "Oh, Uchiha versus Gaara of the desert," you know, two fucking beasts in this tournament, Sasuke and Gaara. So Gaara was fighting against Sasuke. He put himself in the cocoon, right? Sasuke was running away from the sand, dodging the sand. He made himself as fast as Lee or faster than Lee. Then he ran up the wall. When he came down the wall, he was using Chidori, a move that Kakashi taught him. Bless him, taught him, you know. And he came down the wall and he cut into the shell. And he hit Gaara, and Gaara was like bleeding. He was like, "Oh fuck, I'm bleeding!" And he went crazy. He turned into the one tails, and he went out to the wild. And after he went out into the wild, he started going even crazier. And Sasuke was after him still. So basically, what I'm saying is, people say there ain't a clear winner of that fight, but there is to me. If you go based off of what you saw, Gaara won that. He goes into Tail Beast state, and then Sasuke's like, well, what the fuck can I do? I'm gonna try to save Sakura, but I can't. This is a animal. This is Shikaku, the one tails Tanuki. We don't know about shit like you don't know about shit like that. He wasn't prepared for shit like that yet. And it showed too. So Sasuke did get another, but he was winning at first. He showed some good feats. Now 6 is Sasuke versus Deidara. Sasuke versus Deidara come up in the forest. He comes up in the forest and he sees Deidara and he's like, where's Itachi? Because I'm trying to kill my brother now. It's time that he pays for what he's done. And Deidara's like, I don't feel like telling you shit. I hate your eyes. You look at me a certain way that I don't like. And then Sasuke was like, okay, so I have to kill you before I can kill him. And that's basically what happened. He forced Deidara to kill himself. But before all that, Toby was there, and he, told Toby to run. He had bombs set in the ground, but Sasuke has lightning release. So guess what? Lightning release counteracts Earth style. You know, so the bomb couldn't detonate. But he still, had moves. Deidara had the nano bombs. It destroys every cell. It's an explosion of your cell system, your cellular system. And you essentially disintegrate. And that happened. But it didn't happen because he used Sharinganai, and he was like, "Oh fuck, I thought that I killed you already." And he was like, "Nope." And then Sasuke had him down on the ground, and he was like, but Sasuke had used a lot of chakra too. He even went to state 2 curse mark. So it was a hard fight for Sasuke too. But Sasuke already had moves. So Deidara opened up his chest and he used the self destruct. My art is an explosion. And then Sasuke got away by hiding inside of Manda. He got inside of Manda, and that's how he survived. But at number 5, I got Sasuke versus Itachi. It was a lot leading up to that. Itachi killed the family, all of the Uchiha, to where Sasuke and him are the only ones left. Well, and Obito. But they did that, and and Obito wasn't there. Got to the Chia hideout. He started, he stabbed his brother in the chest, but it was mostly a genjutsu battle at first. He was testing Sasuke to see if his eyes were true enough to see through deceit. That's what I saw when I watched it, boys and girls. you know, he was testing his brother to see if he could see past the illusions and shit. And and he could see past the illusions. You know, and he was able to break through Tsukuyomi too. That was his most powerful genjutsu, and it was installed in his left eye, I believe. This is what the Zetsu said. Most powerful genjutsu. Sasuke broke through it with his base Sharingan, and that told me, as a viewer, that Sasuke is the best at using the base Sharingan. Like, he's the best guy at using it. Even better than Madara. And I'm talking about 3 Tomoe. Now, I'm not talking about, Mangekyu. He was able to break out of it. Then they had a ninjutsu battle. The ninjutsu battle led on to, the top of the roof, where Amaterasu popped out, his strongest, ninjutsu, Itachi's. And Sasuke was like, okay, I'll go up here. And he performed Orochimaru substitution to get out of that too. But he had ran up the wall, and he summoned Kirin from the sky. Be gone with the thunderclap. It come down on him, and he's like, basically dead. And he is dead, but like he's holding on for dear life, because he has one more move to show Sasuke, and that was the Susanoo. And Sasuke was like, "Damn, you're still alive," And he had to draw on Orochimaru's power. Orochimaru comes out, and this is where then Itachi um, heals Sasuke. Takes Orochimaru out of Sasuke's body and absorbs it into the Tosca blade. And that's how that fight ends. Number 4 is Sasuke versus Danzo. Shimura Danzo is a bitch. He heeds calls to the ways of Tobirama. So Tobirama was a guy that hated the, Uchiha, knew of what their hatred could bring. That's what it was. And he was like, okay, I have to watch these people like really hard. And Danzo was like a dick rider for Tobirama, so he like took that part of the Will of Fire with him. And Tobirama's Will of Fire, it wasn't the best, but it was. It kept the village, in order, I guess, but it didn't, it created a lot of headaches, later on, because the Uchiha were like kind of slighted in other things. So then Danzo was like, you should order the massacre of them because they're planning an uprising on them. But all the while, he's taking the eyes that, Obito and Itachi, you know, after like they run through, and he implants these eyes on his like arm, and Orochimaru helps him do it. And then for years, he's just watching Hiruzen lead the village, knowing that he wants to lead the village himself. But he's like, I'm just, I don't know why, they chose you instead of me. And then all these other candidates who were there, who qualified or just weren't there or whatever, Orochimaru, Jiraiya, Minato, and all these other people. He had to stay for all that shit. And then, Tsunade, and it all came head to head when they went to the Five Kage Summit, and he was playing games there with Shisui's eye, Koto Matsukami, and he used it on Mifune to try to sway him a certain way. You can't. Oh shit! They called him out with the Byakugan. You can't be out here, doing shit like that. You can't be, making this person the leader of the Shinobi Alliance when you don't, he ain't the most qualified. You can't, be biased like that. He ran away after that because Sasuke got in the room. Sasuke was like, and he had the cold eyes and everything. He was like not playing games that day. Sasuke went in there and he had new eyes. He has the powers that his brother gave him. Well, not yet. He had similar powers as his brothers. And he was using Susanoo and his Amaterasu like crazy. Danzo kept spamming the move Izanagi, which is a technique used by the Uchiha. It's one of their secret techniques that they use. They can use it with the Sharingan, base Sharingan. It can be rewritten as a dream. Basically, the death of a person can be rewritten as a dream. Like it never happened before. You know, and he had about I think 10 eyes on his arm. Sasuke used base Sharingan techniques. And it was base Sharingan techniques. It was, when it when it showed it, he made him think that there was another eye on his hand, but there was no eyes there. So he was dead, basically. He was like, fuck. Now I was trying to save this eye, Koto Matsukame, to use on um Madara, who he thought was Madara, but it was really Obito watching in the distance. And then he was like, I have to, live for the sake of the leaf. And he tried to kill Sasuke too with the fucking tetragram seal. But Obito was like, hey man, we gotta get the fuck out of the way. This nigga's gonna, end us. And then he sealed the whole a part of the bridge inside of him, and he died. And Sasuke basically grew stronger during that fight. Danzo was like Kage level, but not. I wouldn't say he's like he was one of the best wind users. I'll say that about Danzo Shimura's bitch ass. He was one of the best wind users. But at number 3, I got Naruto versus Sasuke Part 2 though. After they fought against Kaguya and everything, Sasuke took the tail beast and he was like, okay, let's see. Basically, this fight was basically to see who was the most powerful ninja, him or Naruto, because he truly believed it was him because he had beat Naruto there before. He had reasons to believe that, and I ain't gonna say that that thinking was flawed because he did beat him there last time, but everybody knew, everybody watching, everybody, it was gonna be Naruto. You know, Sasuke didn't really have a reason to fight anybody anymore. He was just there for that fight. And then they fought each other. They went all out. Indira's arrow, fucking Ashura's, path, you know, Rasengans and Chidori's flying, but fighting for a long time to the point that they both lost their arm. And they were like, okay, Sasuke was like, okay, you win because the series is called Naruto, and then he's like, come on, man, it's called Naruto, and that's basically what that fight was about, and people knew it was coming and everything, so it was a good way to close off the series. Number 2, though, Sasuke versus Killer Bee. See, Sasuke, had, his time with Tail Beast, Gaara and then Naruto. So he was like, well, I've seen those two before. I should have no problem against this guy who, raps and plays games. Because he's playing games. However, in playing games, in playing his games, he was playing games with them. So, he was making them look like children. Not just Sasuke, but everybody was with him too. Sasuke died twice during that fight, essentially, or he was gonna die. Because he was stabbed by Killer Bee, with I don't know how many blades, 6 blades or something. Then Karin came over and healed him. Then he went into Tail Beast form. Sasuke put him into Genjutsu, and then and then after that, Killer Bee was acting like he was down, and then he got up and hit him with the lariat, and his chest was open. He was almost dead. Sasuke was almost dead. And then Karin and Jugo healed him, both of them. And then Suigetsu was trying to fight against Killer B. Then after that, Sasuke remembered back to like teamwork for a second, and he was like, "Damn, we could all die here." And he uses Sharingan, and he decalls the Amaterasu for the first time. And he was able to stop that. That fight was basically a stalemate or whatever, but Killer B got away. Sasuke thought he had caught Killer B, but it was one of his tentacles that he grabbed up. Naruto versus Sasuke Part 1. That's number 1 on this list. That fight, Sasuke won. And he had to win that so Naruto could like push forward and other things. They could go down their own path and then converge later on. In the future, the paths would converge later on and they would fight again. But this first fight was like to show that Naruto had a long way to go still. And that was Naruto series. The end of the Naruto series ended that fight. Or after at the end of that fight, Naruto ended. Like part 1. But it was important and it really drew me into Naruto. That fight right there. This fight. Naruto versus Sasuke. They used a lot of hands and shit. Sasuke was really putting the wood on Naruto. He was fucking him up. But Naruto was like, I don't understand why you would want to do that. We've done all kind of shit together and I thought you were like down for this shit and then Sasuke's like, no, power only comes from the powerful. I have to find the powerful, obtain power from them and just keep growing stronger, more powerful. And he's like, man, I gotta try to stop you. And I remember Sasuke is just like really doing shit to Naruto until Naruto went into Nine Tails form. Sasuke his Sharingan had to evolve during that fight. Once Naruto became a Nine Tail, summoned some of Kurama's chakra, and then when they collided, everybody knows about that. And then Sasuke won that, and they went their separate ways. But yeah, that's my number 1 fight for Sasuke. But stay cool on the corner, and like let me know which fights you like too in the comments or whatever, y'all. You gotta do that shit. But yeah, I'll stay cool on the corner, and you too.